Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 27 of The Agency Way, a blab that is dedicated to tapping the expertise of people inside of an internal team of a marketing agency. Let's see what happens when I don't have my little script that I read. It usually flows a little more nicely than that. But anyway, hopefully the idea is that you can learn from subject matter experts inside of a marketing agency. That's why we do this. And today, other than my awesome co-host, Erica, we have Chrissy, and it's Chrissy Reinemund from
Yes.
Room 214. So, Chrissy, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome. Well, Chrissy, today I know we're going to talk a little bit about advertising insights with Instagram. And just before we do that, and this may be a little test run for you, I'm going to go ahead and make you a co-host. And from there, you should be able to share your screen. So are you ready to try that out?
Awesome. Yeah, sure.
Okay, hang on just a second. Let me punch the button here. Let's see. Oh, hey, I'm now following you on Blab. Okay, make this person a co-host. All right. So what you should see now, Chrissy, is something that says lock seat.
Okay.
And then you'll see something that says drop in a link anywhere.
Okay.
Instead of doing that, there's a little purple button to the left of that. And if you just click that on, you can share your screen. Want to click it and see if it works?
Yeah, I got it. I think add extension.
Yeah, go ahead and add the extension. Takes about a minute. So while you're doing that, I think it's pretty interesting for those of you that have not seen. I noticed Joel Comm was scheduled to do a blab. It's coming up. I believe it's next week. I want to say it's the 7th of the 9th. I'm not sure. I should have that with me. But he's doing a blab with another gentleman. And geez, I don't even remember his name either. But it's a guy that I know of. I've seen him on Blab a lot. He's got a pretty big following. And oh, Chrissy dropped off. Hopefully she'll come back. And the interesting thing about that, hey, you're back.
Okay, good. Not sure what that was.
Yeah, you know, it happens.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. So the interesting thing about Joel Comm's upcoming blab is that it's called The Last Blab. And so, you know, that's pretty exciting because then it creates the question. It's like, oh my gosh, what does the last blab mean? Yeah. So as you can see, Chrissy, all you need to do is pick whichever tab in your browser you want us to see and then go full screen with it. So present.
Awesome.
Yep. And there you have it. And now we are sharing your screen.
Cool.
Yeah. So so getting into this, thanks everybody who's joined. We're talking with Chrissy Reinemund today of Room 214, specifically about advertising insights on Instagram. So before we get started, really quickly, for those of you that are keeping up with what's going on with Instagram, it is actually changing on a daily basis. I know they are rolling out changes to approximately, I don't know what it is, the latest, if it's like a couple million people. Compared to
it's 500 million.
Yeah, so it's 500 million is the audience, and what I understand is the couple million are getting the changes incrementally, and so they roll those out to a couple million, and then they up that over time once they make sure everything is working. And so I know a couple of the changes, and Social Media Examiner, by the way, always does a great job of covering this, but we noticed that. I think their latest report, it's like top 5 things you need to know about Instagram changes. One of the cool things was the fact that video durations are longer. At one point, I believe they were 15 seconds, then they were 30, then they were 60, and now I believe you can even go longer than 60 seconds. That's not everybody yet, but that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, it is. But it's interesting, especially for Instagram ads. I would recommend, I think a lot of people here would too, that videos that exceed maybe over 30 seconds are a little too long for an ad. So if you're using it for personal reasons on Instagram, it's great to go maybe over a minute. But if you're doing an ad and it's going to show up on that news feed, you want to make sure that it's quick and it's to the point and your fans have a chance to get engaged and don't have to sit for longer than 60 seconds. It gets a little bit tedious. Instagram is so focused on that scrolling through, which is so exciting. But yeah, there are a lot of different changes coming, especially with video. And one of them is now that you can actually see how many views your video got as opposed to how many likes you've received. So a video now shows up with maybe 10,000 views, but that isn't necessarily who's liked it. So if you click on those views, you can scroll through and see who actually liked it, which is unfortunate for brands and for people. It kind of makes you feel left out sometimes, but that's an interesting rollout as well.
So you're saying not only can I see the views, the number of views on the video, I can click on that as the user or the advertiser, I guess, see who's liked that video and then turn around and follow them on Instagram as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's pretty sweet. That's funny.
It is. Yeah. But you can't see who's viewed it. You can only see an anonymous number of views and only the likers show up, which is interesting. So
only the likers show up. Perhaps that is an underlying lesson.
It's good to have that data though, to be able to see.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Chrissy, we are looking at your screen here, and there's a reason we're looking at this. And I think you put together 3 slides for us. And one of the things we talked about early on was the fact that, you know, if we want to talk about examples of advertising on Instagram, it's not like you can just pull this up real easily. You have to be able to capture it somehow so we can talk about it, and that's what you've done. So maybe you can walk us through a little bit about your experience in advertising on Instagram, or really more specifically, how you're seeing it done, what you think works, why you like it, why you don't like it, etc.
Right, sure. So a few of these pictures that I've chosen for you guys aren't updated with the newest updates, since those have been rolled out in the past few weeks. Like this one in the middle, you can't see a few of the updates we were just talking about. And this video here, as you can see, still only shows likes. It doesn't show you the views. So that's a little bit of a change. But like you mentioned, it is tricky to find ads on Instagram. So those are targeted to certain users, and those targets are very in-depth and very particular. So when you do receive an Instagram ad, you are receiving it for a reason, and it's based off of people you follow, where you are, your location, and based off of what your friends have liked on Instagram. So it just depends. But a neat thing about Instagram is that it does actually allow you to put hashtags and keywords into the ad. So if you do search for example, hashtag Birchbox on this ad right here on the left, then you will find that ad somewhere in the feed where it shows up, which is interesting. But yeah, so I can just walk you guys through really quickly the different types of ads that you're going to see, and you'd be surprised to find how many people don't realize they're looking at an ad on Instagram when they do see it, because it does blend in with your feed, which is a good thing and a bad thing for brands, and we can go over that a little bit later. But so this slide here is just your basic ad that you're going to see, and the way you know it's an ad is because you have the sponsored button in the top right corner. And you have an option of 8 different call to action buttons you can choose when you're a brand and you're going to set up your ad. And an example of that button is on these 2 ads on the right and the left. And as you can see, Bulletproof Coffee and J Brand Jeans chose Shop Now for their button, but those buttons can vary in 8 different ways. You can have Shop Now, you can have View More, you can have Download Now if it's an app. So brands have a lot of different options when they're looking at setting up ads. And then if you don't want a CTA button like this one in the middle, you have an option to not put in a call to action. And something that I actually just learned recently from Jason was that you can put in a link to your Instagram ad profile in your call to action. And so then when viewers click into your ad and then go to your profile, they're able to see that call to action at the top of your profile, which is great. So they have even more of an opportunity to scroll through your profile. And if they're interested, they don't have to go all the way back to the ad to click on the call to action. They can just do it directly from the profile.
Very cool.
So yeah, any questions on those basic
Well,
ones before you
I think
move
it is worth
forward?
mentioning, and this is going to be obvious to most people, I think, but it's not everybody knows this. I mean, you are basically now tapping, when you set up an ad in Instagram, I mean, you are basically tapping everything that is part of Facebook's business manager for advertising. And so you started off by saying, look, when you see these Instagram ads, you're seeing them for a reason. And it's because all of the demographic, psychographic, secret information that Facebook has collected on every one of us human beings is being filtered through that business manager and driven through Instagram now. So this advertising can be very targeted now. At the same time, my understanding is, unless this has changed even in the last few days, is you cannot actually target ads inside of Instagram specifically to the people that are following you on Instagram. So that's kind of weird, isn't it?
You can't. So it is weird. Yeah. And I'm hoping that that's something that they'll be able to change in the next few months with their new updates. But since the API is owned by Facebook, everything that you do in Facebook Business Manager, since that's connected to Instagram, when you choose to target your followers for a brand, they're not targeting your Instagram followers. They're going to link that back to your Facebook followers, which is interesting. But another cool thing about Instagram is that you, as a user, can actually choose your ad experience. So if you click on one of these drop down arrows next to the sponsored button here, you can actually have the option to hide that ad. And then in the future, Instagram will take that into consideration and show you fewer ads like that and keep that brand from showing up on your feed, which is great. So it's nice that decision is on you as a user.
The thing you mentioned too, with the ability to not only see viewers of the ad, particularly on the video ads, but also being able to see who liked those videos. That's pretty huge, because what it means is that you could have a video ad with tons of views, but very few likes. You could have a video ad with maybe not as many views, but more likes. And right there, you've got a clue as to what kind of video ads are actually effective. And so that's just, a very, I guess it's a very front-facing way to look at the analytics, but certainly that kind of intelligence that's the stuff we look for all the time to make sure that we're always improving.
Right. And that goes back to the new video update that they just rolled out with allowing videos to be over 60 seconds. I think that has a lot to do with how many fans are going to view your ad and maybe watch it for 5 seconds or watch it for 10 seconds and then keep scrolling. And so views on Instagram and Facebook take into account how long that user viewed your ad. So when you go back and you're starting to analyze how the ad performed, you can actually see what percentage of your fans watched the whole ad through its entirety and then how many dropped off 20% of the way through, which is very helpful. So that's why I think 10 to 15 or 20-second ads would perform the best in terms of video.
All right, tell us more about these ads we're looking at, or do you have another screen to share with us?
Cool. Well, I've got a few more ad examples to share with you guys. And we can just skip to this one since we've already been over video a little bit, and that one isn't the new update. But this is a really cool feature that Instagram rolled out about 2 months ago. And you can now do carousel ads up to 3 to 5 images, but you can actually now add videos to your carousel ads. And I'm pretty sure that the same length feature applies to these carousel ads as well. So this is an example from Old Navy, and they have 4 different slides you can scroll through. And the third one, they chose a video. So an important thing to remember about Instagram is that your ads should tell a story, since that keeps your fans engaged. And this is a perfect example of how Old Navy did that. However, this call to action button in the bottom right corner isn't updated with how it looks now. Now it's a giant horizontal tab underneath the ad, so it's easier for your fans to see. So yeah, that's an example. And let's see. And the one over here, this one isn't updated as well with the video, but this was before the update. But yeah, and one downside I think of carousel ads, which Facebook does have, and I'm hoping that Instagram will take into account with their new updates, but this link, regardless of what slide, link to the same page. So if you have a product that you're trying to showcase or a new product launch, and each of these little slides, you want to feature a different product, then you can't change the link. It's going to link back to the same thing. So that's one thing that I think I would change about those carousel ads. But besides that, they are pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm really curious about the carousel ad thing, and maybe on Instagram in particular, because I don't know, when I just think about what we know about the effectiveness of landing pages and websites that use, sliders. I mean, I know the carousel ad is different, but we also know that sliders don't work. You know what I mean? So it's like people see that front image, and then once you start scrolling additional images, you think you're being smart because, oh, well, they won't have to scroll. We'll just show them more. But the reality is they don't want to see more, and they don't care, right? And so it's really important just to have that first image typically be the one that you want them to actually land on and see. And I can only imagine that because Facebook is doing this, that it is effective. And it's going to be different on Instagram because people will actually just swipe.
Right, exactly. And one cool feature that I know isn't very new, but that does help people to keep scrolling, is to take one picture and then divide it throughout the slide so that you have to keep scrolling and swiping to see the rest of the picture, which is a neat idea. And I've seen a few brands try it out, but I do agree that it is a little tedious when you're scrolling, but we'll see.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I think the other interesting thing too that we're seeing inside of Instagram, and of course this is all Facebook mastery, is just the way that the timing in terms of what is showing up in our Instagram feed. So for example, before, not that long ago, I would say even in, I don't know, March of this year, pretty much saw chronologically whatever was posted inside of Instagram. If I posted the most recent post of the people that you follow, you're going to see that post in the order that it was, actually uploaded by me. That doesn't happen anymore, right? I mean, basically Instagram has decided we're going to show you this particular thing might be 3 hours old, but we're going to put it towards the top of your feed because we believe it's more relevant to you. It's going to have higher interest, etc.
Yeah, this was a big change that they gave to fans and to brands in March, and it was for good reason. It was for a very good reason, and they switched the algorithm to align with what Facebook and Twitter look like as well. So around September of last year, they saw this massive drop in their engagement rates, and it was about a 70% decrease. And they realized this was because there were so many people on the platform, and now we're up to 500 million, but there were so many people and so many brands, and they were following so many different handles that when they were scrolling through their news feeds, they were only seeing about 30% of the posts that were on the feed. And so they weren't engaging. So that's why Instagram decided to arrange these posts so that you don't see these posts in a chronological order. They're arranged in a way that Instagram thinks that these posts matter most to you. And this goes back to the user deciding their advertising and their platform experience. So the more that you engage with a post, the more that you like, comment, or click on a CTA button, the more likely that Instagram will choose that handle or that brand to show up higher in your newsfeed. And that itself should be reason enough for brands to get on the platform and start advertising, because it's already very difficult for certain handles to get seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. And should we know anything about, just in terms of, whoa, should we know? I know, it's Blab. Should we know anything about costs on Instagram ads versus Facebook ads? I mean, Are they about the
They-
same? Are they?
No, they tend to be a little higher, and that depends on your objective. And since the algorithm has changed so that it is a little bit harder for your ads to get seen on Instagram, if you're paying for cost per click, which is usually the objective that we'll choose for a CTA button that we're using like this. Am I echoing over for you?
It comes and goes. You know, we've just gotten so used to the nature of this platform. By the way, for those of you watching, we probably are going to switch over to Huza, which is a pay-to-play platform for doing this, what we're doing here, but with better quality. So just so you know, just saying.
Yeah, might be a good idea. I'm like hearing myself talk and it's throwing me off.
Yeah, I know. It's such a pain. Oh, and here.
Skinny kid.
Oh my
I know.
gosh, can you believe this? Yeah, and so there's the link right there. Zeph, thank you for posting that. She actually has a great show on Blab herself, and maybe you've already moved to Huza. Anyway.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, so let me get this screen back up. Do we need this or should we switch back to the Blab, do you think?
Unless you have anything else to show on the screen share, we can just switch back.
No, I think that's pretty much it. We can
Okay.
switch back to the Blab.
So I mean, I think if I'm to sum up key takeaways from this Blab, insights on Instagram advertising. I mean, I've got a couple thoughts, but what about you, Chrissy? What would you recommend to the people that are going to be watching this?
A few things, but one that's I think is the most important is just to remember that when you are creating Instagram ads, to recognize that Instagram is all about the visuals and all about the image. So to make sure that your image is the focus of that ad and to not put any text overlays on the image or to avoid that as much as you can. And one change that Facebook did make that applies to Instagram as well was to get rid of the 20% text rule, which we've noticed actually does still apply to Facebook ads and Instagram ads. So when you're scheduling an ad in Facebook Business Manager, Facebook Ads Manager, you want to make sure that that image doesn't include more than 20% text in the image. And if it does, then Facebook still rejects that ad and doesn't allow it to run. And particularly for Instagram, that's important to remember since it is so visual. And when people are scrolling, they're most likely just going to scroll right over an image that has too much text. So that's important. And just to keep in mind that Instagram is like this hub of where the people are. It's 500 million people. And if it continues to keep growing in the way that it is, that there is so much opportunity for brands to be on that platform and to get seen, to get heard. And so I'm really excited to see where it goes in the next few years. I feel like there's a ton of opportunity there.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. It's interesting because, you know, we've been doing interviews at the agency recently, filling an account director position, and a lot of times we'll ask, you know, what's your favorite social network and why? And it seems like the most common answer is Instagram. And I think that, you know, the reasons why, at least in terms of what we heard and even in my own personal preference, it's because, you know, you don't even have to have a clever, quippy comment next to every photo. You know, it's like if an image is worth 1,000 words, and now a 60-second video is maybe worth 1 million, you know, get it out there and let that imagery do the talking for you.
Right. Yeah. And even if the image has emojis in it instead of text, I mean, we've experimented with that with a few of our brands, and we've noticed that it does actually perform better than text that's in the image. If it has an emoji equation or something like that, then people do respond better because they read it automatically. So that's good to keep in mind as well.
And I think that, you know, the place of advertising on Instagram, it's, I would say, nowhere near saturated. And so that's going to be an important thing for Facebook to consider as they continue to manage this ad platform. If it gets too, you know, if people's feeds get too trashed, it's just like, why bother, right?
Yeah.
And so they're going to have to maintain that balance. But with that in mind, you know, it's important to consider the cost of advertising. And so when we consider best practices and insights and what we should be doing, you know, the kind of video we should be posting, even testing on image versus video on Instagram, we need to have those costs in mind. Because, you know, for example, I know, I think we saw over the last, I want to say 5 years, Facebook advertising has increased, the costs have increased by over 900%. And so what was once the, cool social network where you could actually place ads that worked, is now just one channel among many, where you've got some substantial advertising costs. So all that to say, you definitely want to do what's working, so that you don't waste your time and money.
Right. And I think the cost definitely depends on what you're paying for. I mean, if your objective is video views and you're paying for fans or cost per click, then that definitely has an effect on your results. So just to keep that in mind
absolutely.
for Instagram.
And I think, in terms of marketing in general, you start to look at what is an acceptable cost per customer, right? And so if you've got that in mind, then you can kind of work your way back and figure out how much am I even willing to put into this particular network or channel. So cool.
Right.
Well, I am gonna pause the recording, and if anybody has any questions, and actually maybe we do have some questions here.
We have one from Martha.
Hey, Martha. Martha asks, what are some products or brands you think do best on Instagram? I've got a quick answer, but Chrissy, if you want to jump in. Okay, well, I do.
Oh, you
know
go ahead.
that,
You go first.
We all think in terms of food brands. And so part of that is because we're in Boulder, Colorado, and it's like a natural foods mecca here. I think the other part is because I'm always hungry. So there's that. But, we do see that there's great traction on there. I mean, even when you just consider the success of recipe-based sites and the imagery associated with them, it's really a natural kind of channel for those brands to get into. In fact, I think on the resources section of room214.com, there's a whole, whether it's I think it's like an ebook guide called Food Brands on Instagram. Now's the time where I actually input the link into the lab. But yeah, so Food Brands is definitely one of them. I'm going to do that. Chrissy, you got any other ideas, insights?
I totally agree. A nice rule of thumb to have for Instagram is that if your ad contains puppies or food, then you're gold. You're in. That's the best thing that performs on Instagram, which is hilarious. But also, I think a brand that's doing really well with ads is Target. I've seen a few ads, and they have these nice laydowns that have these different products laid out on a beautiful background, and it's very streamlined. It's very clean. So when you're scrolling and you see a product that you like, and it's sprayed out with all these other beautiful products. I think the ad that I received was with a sale they were having for beauty products. And I assume they targeted me because there's a Target right next to us. But when you see a different beautiful array of products, a lay down like that, then I think that's something that Instagram really likes and probably automatically puts at the top of your feed. So
yep. Very cool.
Nothing to keep in mind.
Awesome. Well, Chrissy, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your expertise and your time. And Erica.
Sure, it was fun. What are these little emojis at the bottom of
my
Blab?
gosh, people are just giving me props left and right. Look, that's
everybody's just giving you love.
No,
oh my God.
look,
I don't get it.
Just,
awesome. Okay, great.
It just keeps flowing.
It is exploding. Well, thanks, guys.
Encouraged now?
I'm flattered. I do. I feel. Oh, it's all Erica.
Look, there's me, there's Martha. I see some people giving props. I see Austin.
It's Martha too.
Yeah.
And it's Austin.
See what happens.
Wow.
You just ask for a little love. And I don't know, Chrissy. I think you kind of knew. what that was.
Sure. I've been doing it the whole time. It's
cool. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much again for joining us. Please do look for the blog post on this topic where we'll sum it all up. And like I said earlier, I do believe we're going to migrate over to Whooza. Blab has been great for us, but it's definitely got its issues. And if you've been watching this for more than 15 minutes, you will have already experienced those issues. So we're trying to overcome that. We're trying to make sure that the production of this show is valuable for people and that it works well. So thanks, everybody, again for joining. Thursday, 11:30 Mountain Time is where we hit it every week. So peace, and stick around if you want to ask some questions.
Thanks, Missy.
All right.